At the center page of history, the small Jewish community of Bethlehem rested in the shadow of a man-made mountain. This looming fortress was built by Herod the Great, the self-consumed king who ordered the killing of Bethlehem's male children in response to the rumored birth of the long-awaited Messiah. Jesus and Herod, the story of two kings on this day of discovery. This is the land of the Bible, modern Israel, a land marked with the ruins of a master builder. Known as Herod the Great because of his remarkable building accomplishments, he is also remembered as the notorious king of the Jewish people who tried to kill their long-awaited Messiah after hearing rumors of his birth in Bethlehem. Mart DeHaan and Jimmy DeYoung have come to Israel to reflect on the contrast between Herod the Great and Jesus of Nazareth. Two lives, two legacies, two kings.
Driving from Bethlehem east, the roadside landscape turns into barren Judean desert. Our eyes track a looming volcano-shaped landmark. Within just a few miles of Bethlehem, Herod the Great built a huge fortress palace as a place of retreat and refuge for him and his family. As we approach, we realize that Herod's complex extended around the base of his elevated palace. He lacked nothing. Here where water is so scarce, a colonnade of pillars surrounded a swimming and boating pool 230 feet long and 148 feet wide, almost the size of a football field. To enter the palace, we had to make a long, winding climb under a hot sun. As we walk, I imagine Herod carried on the shoulders of slaves. From these heights, he must have contemplated every person or group that posed a threat to his kingdom. And that included the events in nearby Bethlehem. As we arrive at the summit, we catch our breath and look down into the humbled remains of Herod's palace.
We've come here today to tell you the story of two kings.
When you look at these kings side by side, they're really a study in contrasts. One was born in wealth.
The other, born in poverty.
One was the king of might.
The other, a king and king of right.
The other one was an arrogant and proud man.
The other was a man who was known for his humility.
One never mastered the English language.
Speak English.
We know for sure that one of these kings was known for building great palaces and fortresses.
We also know for sure that one of them built into the lives of men and women.
One was a criminal who died like a king.
The other, a king who died like a criminal.
One was a king of Jewish people.
The other was king of the Jews.
One was a king who was a mirror opposite of the king whose birth he feared.
And we meet them both in the Christmas story as found in the New Testament Gospels, Matthew chapter 2.
Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. So they said to him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet. Matthew chapter 2.
Herod had a very troubled personality, so to say, and for him to go once in a while for creation into the desert to an isolated place away from the intrigues of palace, and Herod was full of intrigues. The palace was full of intrigues. You know, he killed his own sons, and one of the emperors said it better be a swine in Herod's court than be his son, because they were all slaughtered one way or the other. So you can understand it's a troubled person who always feared mutiny. For him to build a place like Herod was a great work to do.
Jerusalem is there on the horizon, It's about 7 miles from where we're located here in the Judean desert. This is Herodion, Herod's desert fortress palace, one of his many buildings that he was known for. Herodion was actually built on a natural hill. 2/3 of it was what was man-made. This particular palace fortress was the 3rd largest in the entire Roman Empire.
Originally it was here which was quite conspicuous, over which Herod brought enormous amount of field, creating a great monument which exists to this very day. As I say, it looks like a volcano from the distance because inside, when you have got the crater, it's actually the Herodian palace which was down there. It is surrounded by all kinds of places of luxury like swimming pools, pastures, and all kinds of things down below. That's the lower city. Herod's palace was on top.
From this vantage point, the highest point on Herodion, just 3 miles across the valley into the foothills, the Judean foothills, you see the little town of Bethlehem. Bethlehem, the place of Jesus Christ.
In this palace fortress, you could look down on the fields where the angels announced Jesus' birth to common shepherds. You could also see Bethlehem, where God brought to rest the wandering star that had led the astrologers from the east in search of the King of the Jews. What a perspective. 2 kings. One ordered the building of this mountain fortress to protect and indulge himself. The other, born down there in such innocence, to give his life for others.
Herod heard that the King of the Jews had been born, and hearing that from the 3 wise men, he encouraged them to, when they found him, come and tell him so he could go and worship him.
Herod, of course, comes into the biblical account in connection with the Nativity. We find Herod here in his very last years, and this is when he was at his worst. He was a walking encyclopedia of medical diseases. He had everything from cancer to gonorrhea. He was madly trying to shake his maladies at the time that the Magi arrived, and with rather undiplomatic flair, they said, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews, you lame duck? Where is the prince who's going to succeed you, you has-been?" You see, at this point, Herod is old, paranoid, very sick. He's described both in Matthew chapter 2 and Flavius Josephus as the same person. You can see the same fingerprint in terms of a person whose personal affairs have really gone south in a big way.
They never returned to tell Herod where the King of the Jews had been born. And so Herod gave the order to kill all male Jewish boys under 2 years of age.
Then Herod, when he saw that he was deceived by the wise men, was exceedingly angry, and he sent forth and put to death all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in all its districts, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had determined from the wise men. Matthew chapter 2.
A lot of scholars doubt the infant massacre, of course, but this is very much a character for Herod in his last months. His household had turned into a can of worms, having married 10 wives. The princes were scheming to succeed. He executed 3 of them on suspicion of treason in his own household. He put to death his favorite wife, the beautiful Maccabean princess Mariamne. He killed his mother-in-law. He invited the high priest down to Jericho for a swim. They played a very rough game of water polo. They drowned him. He struck out several cousins, a couple uncles. Real family man, Herod was, you see. And this is the kind of person who would have been exactly responding the way Matthew has it when the Magi came along and suggested that his time on the throne is going to be very limited indeed.
King Herod, who ruled upon Judah between 40 BC and 4 BC, was the greatest builder in the history of this country ever. Herod built structures in which he tried to compete with the Almighty. For example, when the Almighty built a mountain like the Temple Mount here, Herod made a flat platform. We actually do not see the shape of the mountain. This is Mount Zion, or Mount Moriah of the scriptures. We do not see the mountain, we see a flat platform. This is Herod's stamp upon the map of Jerusalem. Wherever the Almighty didn't have a natural anchorage, Herod built a magnificent town with an artificial harbor, that is Caesarea. Herod rebuilt the city of Jericho with a magnificent series of royal palaces there. In one of them he found his death. He built a city, naming it after himself, Herodium, just southeast of the city of Bethlehem. That place in which he had the victory upon his opponents in 40 BC has an artificial mountain. The Lord didn't build a mountain there, so Herod built one. And from there is direct eye contact with Jerusalem. In the Judean desert, everybody knows about the site of Masada. That place in the mid of the desert, which doesn't have a drop of rainwater, had in Herod's time a swimming pool, a public bath, several private bathing installations, etc.
The story of Herod the Great speaks for itself. Few would want to be like him. And yet, when I'm honest with myself, it's the Herod in me that's so troubling. I don't have to look very far to find in myself some of the same self-serving attitudes that consumed him. How can I deny my own natural tendency to want my own honor, respect, and influence at the expense of others? And what troubles me the most is the awareness that a Herod in me resists bowing to any other king. Yes, of all the characters in the Christmas story, like the shepherds and wise men, probably the most like Herod, which makes me so thankful for the king who was born right down there.
Festive occasion here at the Tower of David in the city of Jerusalem, as many have come to visit this which has been turned into a museum. This actually is the base of one of the three towers of the palace of Herod. Herod the Great, known for his building achievements, fortresses, palaces, all over this land and throughout the entire Middle East. He was known around the world as a great builder. The Romans in 70 AD destroyed the city of Jerusalem. They devastated Herod's palace here, the western part of the city of Jerusalem, from the time of Christ. That opulent palace that once was the home for Herod the Great, reduced to just this base of a tower from his beautiful palace in Jerusalem.
So wherever you go and follow the building operations of this builder. His building operations were something that we may call a megalomania. He was sick in the mind. He thought that he could eternalize himself through his buildings. And hooray, hooray, he succeeded.
The culmination of his work is the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. I think it should be considered as one of the marvels of the ancient world, above the seven which are known to everyone. It is the largest, the most magnificent, the most massively built structure in the classical world.
Now we are here at the southwestern corner of the Temple Mount, and today, as in antiquity, the site draws an enormous number of visitors who are still inspired by the site and by the ruins that exist here. We see the very impressive huge stones of the southwestern corner of the Temple Mount. Actually, all walls of the Temple Mount go down to bedrock. Herod more than doubled the territory of the Temple Mount, and these are actually retaining walls. Behind those walls there is fill, artificial earthen fill. The stones, they are held together by their weight. There is no mortar. This is dry masonry. The stones are not vertical. The wall is not vertical. If you look carefully, you can see that there is a minor step formed by each of the courses. Now, the courses project about 1 to 2 inches, each of them. Each of the stones has the same height, but the length of each stone differs. And you can see some of the stones which are enormous in size. Some of them are more than 500 tons in weight. They are enormous stones, and this is one of the greatest achievements. And embedded into the western wall of the Temple Mount is the largest building stone known in human masonry around the world.
Jesus and his disciples often walked past these same massive retaining walls. Then, dominated this mount and impressed the disciples was the temple itself, rising some 17 or 18 stories above this platform, all built for the Jewish people by Herod the Great. But then, surprisingly, Jesus predicted complete destruction of the temple.
Then Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came up to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said to them, "Do not see all these things? Surely I say to you, not one stone shall be left here upon another that will not be thrown down." Matthew chapter 24.
Here we see a large stone which was found here upon the slabs of the street, and it collapsed in 70 AD. In August of 70 AD, as a result of the work of the engineering forces of Titus, who knocked down the stones, this stone fell to the slabs of the street here. And actually, if you look at it, you can even imagine the noise of the stone falling onto the slabs of the stone of the street. Now, inside this stone, there is a niche which is enough for one single person to stand in, and this is the upper part of the crenellation, which was at the corner, at the top part of the wall. And we see the actual corner here, the inside of the corner. On the edge of the stone, we have a Hebrew inscription saying Levei Tekiah, Levei Tekiah, and then we have 3 letters, Lamed He Chav, probably Lehakohen. We know from writings of Flavius Josephus and from the sources of the Mishnah that the priesthood were used to herald the incoming of the holidays and the incoming of the Sabbath by trumpeting from the corners of the Temple Mount. The Beit HaTekiyah means the place of blowing, and actually we may imagine the priest standing here and blowing the trumpet on Friday afternoon to announce the incoming of the Sabbath.
Why would Jesus predict that the temple would be destroyed? The temple was Israel's worship center, their place of sacrifice and cleansing. Everything in its original design spoke symbolically of God's provision and how to approach Him. The gold leaf interior spoke of the holiness of God. In the holy place stood the menorah lampstand, the table of showbread, and the altar of incense. And behind the veil, in the Holy of Holies, the Ark of the Covenant, where God's presence was to dwell in a special way. However, at the time of Jesus, the Ark of the Covenant was no longer there. It had been absent since 586 BC, when the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem, and its location remains a mystery to this day.
I'm on a street level which led pilgrims 2,000 years ago to the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem. Just next to the street, next to the sidewalk here, there are huge stones which are originally Herodian. This is the counter pier which supported the other side of the arch which came over from the western wall. This structure with the 4 shops was the place in which pilgrims who came from all over the Jewish world at that time could buy their sacrificial animals. So people could come here, buy their souvenirs, buy their sacrificial animals, and in these shops they did all the dealing. They could change their money because the temple taxation was accepted only in the Tyrian shekel, the shekel of the city of Tyre, today in Lebanon.
Unfortunately, by the time of Jesus, the Gospel writer Luke tells us that those changing money and selling sacrificial animals had actually expanded from the streets below up into the courts of the temple itself.
Then Jesus went into the temple, began to drive out those who bought and sold in it, saying to them, "It is written, my house is a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves." Luke chapter 19.
The teacher from Nazareth created great commotion in cleaning the temple, and yet Luke, writing the biblical account, recorded a touching episode that occurred just before Jesus' prediction that the temple would be destroyed. It shows love and his sorrow over the unbelief of his Jewish brothers and sisters.
"O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophet and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. See, your house is left you desolate. For I say to you, you shall see me no more till you say, Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." Matthew chapter 23.
The judgment in this place is so ironic. It was not because of the decadent life of Herod, the temple's builder. Rather, it was because of the people's misuse of the temple, and according to Jesus, because they did not welcome him as Messiah.
This is Sapori, located here in Galilee, in close proximity to the little village of Nazareth, located 35 miles across the valley. Sapori, a major Roman city in the times of Jesus Christ, a city that had been captured for the birth of Christ by Herod the Great, and then later willed to his son Herod Antipas. Sapori, tradition says, could well have been the location where Joseph and Jesus would have worked as carpenters or maybe stonemasons. Sapori, continuing the legacy of Herod the Great, and just a short distance from Nazareth, the hometown of Jesus Christ.
And so here in the Galilee, we have 2 hills, Zippori and Nazareth, representing 2 kings of the Jewish people, Herod the Great and his family, and Jesus of Nazareth. 2 kingdoms, one that is read today in the rocks and ruins of this region, the other is read in the minds and hearts of all who anticipate the future of that kingdom. 2 legacies, one written in the terms of death, of the use of power for one's own selfish protection and satisfaction. The other, a king who left us a legacy of life and love, who used his power in order to give his life as a sacrifice for anyone who willingly trust him. And again, what irony that Jesus' whole life was lived in the shadow of Herod's great building accomplishments. He was born where the eastern horizon dominated the Herodian palace fortress. He grew manhood in Nazareth, within sight of Zippori, a city Herod captured and gave to his son. Jesus, like others of his time, worshipped in Herod's temple. He was judged in the fortress built by Herod, and many believe he was crucified and buried under the shadow of Herod's Jerusalem palace, now called the Tower of David. In such a stark contrast, Herod's kingdom and all his engineering marvels now lie in ruins. The words of Herod are remembered only as ancient history. But Jesus and his teaching now live and stand as the Word of God in the hearts of millions. And his kingdom is remembered as a kingdom that will last forever.